Welcome back to the Snow Point Cast. Today we're going to be looking at a deck from 2011 called Twinboar. So Twinboar actually got first place in the Masters division at the World Championships in 2011. A player named David Cohen, a good buddy of mine, actually got first place with it. We did an interview with David Cohen on the channel. It tells a pretty funny story about Worlds in 2009 with his Worlds 2011 opponent. It's a story about Ross Cawthon, who he played in finals in 2011. Pretty entertaining story. So if you're interested in checking out that interview, I'll leave a link in the description to go check that out. But let's dive right into his list. So starting off with 3 Magnemite. Magnemite's got 50 HP, lightning type, single retreat, resistance to metal, and a weakness to fighting. So magnetic switch for 1 color, switch Magnemite with one of your bench Pokemon. Definitely decent just to get your Magnemite out of there and retain that energy. You don't really want to pay the retreat cost if you can, just because having that ability to keep the energy on is more damage for later. So having that switch option is pretty good. And then Thundershock is also pretty decent. So for a lightning color, it does 20, and then flip a coin if heads the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. So I've said on a lot of my other deck profiles where if there's a basic Pokemon with paralyze, one of your best options to have, just because, you know, if you're attacking with a basic, it's not usually something that you're going to be doing, but if you have to do it, having an option to just stall out until you can find an evolution card is definitely really solid. You also play 1 Magneton. So for a couple of reasons. One of them is so that you can have an out to trainer lock. If you get trainer locked by a Vileplume or something, you don't just lose the game. But also gives you an option to just search for a Magneton. If you missed Candy Magnezone, it gives you an option to say, okay, I'm going to Pokemon Communication for a Magneton and then still have that out to hit a Magnezone next turn. So retains that resistance and weakness as well as retreat. So first attack, Speedball for 1 lightning does 20, and then Tri Attack for 2 colors does 20 times the amount of heads you flip on 3 coin flips. So both pretty mediocre. Speedball for 1 lightning doing 20 is whatever, I guess. I guess there are some situations for that, but not a very good card for attacking for sure. But Magnezone, what a good segue, is an amazing card for attacking. So Magnezone Prime has got 140 HP, lightning type, 3 retreat, and then retains that resistance and weakness. So Magnetic Draw is one of the best Poke powers I've seen printed on an attacker. It's such a good power. The Magnetic Draw says once during your turn before you attack, you may draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. So being able to just draw for all the resources you need, you know, especially in a deck like this where you're able to, you know, usually your hand could get clogged with a bunch of stuff like energy, and, you know, the only thing that clogs your hand with this deck is really supporters. And you don't play a ton of supporters. You do play some supporters, but it's a lot less of an issue, you know. With Inferno, Fandango, and Emboar, which we're going to talk about in just a second, you get to draw a bunch of cards and then play a bunch of them, and then maybe even use a potential second Magnetic Draw on your turns. One of the reasons that this deck is so good is because you can just draw your hand up, play it all out, draw your hand up, do it again, and then get an insane board out of nowhere. So that's a really solid power on Magnezone, really good. And then Lost Burn is the attack, so really solid attack as well. So for Lightning Colorless, Lost Burn does 50 times the amount of energy cards attached to your opponent, attached to your Pokemon rather, as you like into the Lost Zone. So, you know, energy cards is a pretty specific distinction. It means that you can't get 100 off of a double colorless energy. However, with Inferno Fandango, it's not really a big issue because you just have the option to accelerate a ton of energy and then outpower your opponent. So Lost Burn, you know, discarding or Lost Zoning 3 energy doing 150 kills pretty much everything in the format. Not everything per se, but all the main things that you're really worried about. You know, the stage 2 primes, most of them it kills. You know, it kills a lot of the RDL, like Rayquaza Deoxys Legend it kills. So you have a lot of options to kill a lot of big stuff with that attack, which is really, really good. Okay, getting into the Emboar line. So you're playing 3 Tepig, 60 HP, fire type, single retreat, and a weakness to water. For 1 fire, tackle does 10, and then for a fire and a colorless, rollout does 20, super whatever. Pignite, you play one of these guys as well. He's got 100 HP, which is pretty beefy. Fire type, 3 retreat, and a weakness to water. So flame charge for 1 color, search your deck for a fire energy card and attach it to this Pokemon. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Awful attack. You're pretty much never going to be using this because you don't want fire energy on your Emboar. Unless you like maybe have to retreat. I don't know. There's some situations where this might be good, but honestly, really bad attack. And then for 5-hour colorless, Heat Crash does 50, super mediocre as well. But it's funny because a lot of the Prevos are pretty mediocre in this format, but the stage 2s are not. So Emboar, it's got 150 HP, fire type, 4 retreat, retains that weakness to water. So Inferno Fandango is often used like during a turn before you attack, you may touch a fire energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So obviously the synergy there is pretty linear. Lost Burn and Inferno Fandango go hand in hand. Being able to discard as many energy attached to all your Pokemon as you like, and then attach as many, obviously has some basic synergy. And just being able to load up a lot of your tech attackers as well, which we're about to go over in a second, is really good. And it lets you just have a lot of options of what kind of attack strategy you want to take in the game. Okay, so getting into some of the tech attacker Pokemon. So starting off with 2 Reshiram. You play 2 this Reshi. Really solid card, 130 HP, fire type. 2 retreat and a weakness to water. So outrage for 2 colors does 20 plus 10 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Pretty decent. For 2 you can do like 140 if you have 120 damage counters on you. And then blue flare for a fire colorless does 120, and then you discard 2 energy attached, 2 fire energy attached to this Pokemon. So that's actually really solid, just because with Inferno Fandango and you play a ton of retrieval options in Junk Arm and Energy Retrieval and Fisherman, so being able to get those energy back just means that this is a really solid just one prize attacker. It's a basic. It's only got 10 less HP than Magnezone. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It has a damage cap, unlike Magnezone that does not. But being able to just chuck this guy as soon as in the active, as soon as you got an Emboar and just start swinging for 120 or potentially more with outrage, depending on what the board looks like, is a really, really solid option. And Reshiram is a good, really good attacker in this deck. Okay, so you also are going to be playing 1 RDL, also known as Rayquaza Deoxys Legend. So Rayquaza Deoxys Legend is such a cool card, really, really solid as well. So 140 HP, it's both colorless and psychic type. So a lot of the legends, or actually every legend was dual type based off the Pokemon that were in it. So that's kind of neat. It's got 3 retreat as well as the dual weakness. All the legends also had dual weakness that were printed. So got a weakness to colorless or dragon in this format, as well as psychic. And then the Poke Body says if this Pokemon is able to knock out one of your opponent's active Pokemon, or knock out one of your opponent's Pokemon, then you take an additional prize card. So that's kind of insane, especially on, you know, stuff that's really easy to knock out. The energy requirement for this is pretty heavy, so it's lightning, colorless, and 2 fire, and then you have to discard all fire energy attached to this Pokemon in order to use this attack, but not usually a big deal, just because you have that option to just go lightning, attach for turn, Inferno Fandango for a bunch of damage, for a bunch of energy rather, and then you can swing for 150, discard the energy, and then you have lots of options to get it back, like I was saying. But the additional prizes are really really solid, because I think that one of the main problems with this deck is that Magnezone can run out of steam because you only play a set amount of energy cards. So if you just go aggro with Magnezone the whole time, you only play a total of like 15 energy. So there is a potential that depending on what you draw or what you have prized, you don't have enough energy to be able to loss zone all your energy and knock out your opponent's Pokemon for the prizes that you need. So RDL kind of just pushes you over that, you know, it gets you over a 2 prize hump if you have 2 more prizes left and only a couple energy. You know, you don't really have the option to kill with Magnezone twice. It just gives you that option to kind of take 2 prizes at once for the game, or at sometime in the middle of the game. It really depends what the board looks like, but having that option to kind of help your prize race along, just because that is one weakness that I think Magnezone does have, is having to loss on your energy means that you can run out of energy. But Rayquaza Deoxys Legend is one of the really solid answers to that problem that this deck has. Okay, so deck also plays 1 Cleffa. So Cleffa is your support Pokemon, 30 HP, colorless, free retreat, no resistance, no weakness. So Sweet Sleeping Face, if this Pokemon is asleep, can't be damaged by attacks. So Eek, shuffle your hand to your deck and you draw, I think it's 6, might be 7. Yeah, 6. So his cards in Japanese. So shuffle your hand to your deck, draw 6, and then this Pokemon is asleep. So really, like I was saying before, you do have some options to switch Pokemon into with Magnemite. So if you have a Cleffa on your bench, you can just switch with the Magnemite and then Eek next turn. So definitely a really solid tech draw option there if you don't really have anything on your board but a collector and an energy. Okay, so getting into some of the trainers now. Starting off with 4 Rare Candy. Obviously, you're playing 2 Stage 2s in the deck, so 4 Rare Candy just makes a lot of sense. You know, hitting your Stage 2s is important for both Magnezone for draw and attack, and you need the Inferno Fandango for the point of the deck. So obviously, you play 4 Rare Candy. Okay, you play 4 Pokemon Communication as well. So I didn't even say what Rare Candy does. So Rare Candy, it just lets you, you know, skip the Stage 1 and just go right into the Stage 2. So you can just go Magnemite, Rare Candy, Magnezone. You have to wait a full turn because the rules did change for that in this format, but still a really solid card that you have to play in this deck. So Pokemon Communication, reveal a Pokemon in your hand, put it on top of your deck. If you do, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So it just changes a Pokemon. You play so many Pokemon in this deck that having the ability to Pokemon Communicate for, you know, an Emboar or a second half of Rayquaza Deoxys Legend or Magnezone, really whatever you need at whatever time, is a really good option to have just to be able to search out the Pokemon, because you have a lot of moving parts in this deck that you need to hit. Okay, so you play 3 Junk Arm as well. So Junk Arm is a super solid card. It's so funny. So one of the commenters in another one of my videos was like, you say every card is solid, but you know, in every deck that each card is in, you know, situationally it is really solid. And Junk Arm is super solid in any deck that you play it. Honestly, it's so good. So discard 2 cards from your hand and then take a trainer card from your discard pile and put it in your hand. So it's anything that's not a supporter or a stadium you're able to take out of your discard pile. It's kind of confusing because, you know, with Pokemon Communication being an item, it's a little bit confusing on the wording, but as long as it's a trainer that you could be able to play in that same turn. So Junk Arm, great for getting your Pokemon Communications back. It's also great for getting energy back. You play Energy Retrieval, which we're going to go over in just a sec, and it's great for getting that back. If you're running out of energy, getting your energy back is really important as well. But yeah, Junk Arm, really good card. So you play 2 Energy Retrieval as well. Important to get your energy back. They'll put 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile back into your hand. So with Reshiram, you know, you're able to just stream blue flares if you have these and a Junk Arm. You discard 2 fires. You don't even need to have the fires in your hand. You can just get an Energy Retrieval. If you have an Energy Retrieval in your discard, you can just Junk Arm for it and then attack with the Reshiram again. So definitely a solid option to have in this deck to have some recovery. Also play 2 switch. There's a lot of fat retreaters. Magnezone's got 3 retreat. Emboar's got 4 retreat. RDL has 3 retreat. And there are situations where you're going to have to be switching up your attackers and attacking with different things, depending on different points of the game. Like I was saying with RDL, it's important to know when to attack with it, but there are some really opportune spots to just take an extra prize if you want to do that. And being able to switch into that, you know, you don't want to pay the 3 retreat on the Magnezone ever, or the 4 retreat on the Emboar if that's ever a situation. Because sometimes you just have to hit Candy Emboar in the active just because depending on what your opponent's playing, but if they have the option to item lock you, having the option to just go Candy Emboar, and then, you know, if they do hit the item lock, that sucks. At least you have an option to have an Emboar out, but if they miss it, then you have the option to switch next turn. So having a switch option is definitely really solid in this deck. Okay, so looking at the supporter cards now, we're going to be looking at 4 Pokemon Collector. Pokemon Collector is a staple in this format, one of the best supporter cards Pokemon has ever printed, in my opinion. So search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon, show them to your opponent, and put them in your hand. So it's great for finding your missing pieces. Usually that's going to be for a Magnemite, a Tepig, and X. X is the mystery card, depending on what you need. It could be a Cleffa, could be a Reshiram, could be a second Magnemite. It really just depends what your hand and board looks like. But being able to search those out is super important to the deck, just because obviously finding Emboar and Magnezone is kind of the deck. Okay, so you're going to be playing 3 twins as well. So this is the reason this deck is called Twinboar. For those that don't know, this is actually one of the big innovations that David came up with for the deck. So obviously the synergy between Emboar and Magnezone was pretty obvious around Nationals, but the problem with the deck was that people couldn't get it to be consistent. They couldn't hit it consistently, and that's an issue when you're trying to play at a Worlds level event. However, David Cohen put in these twins, and I think that's such a good option because twins says you may use this card only if you are behind on prize cards. Search your deck for 2 cards and then put them into your hand, shuffle your deck. So it lets you hit whatever piece of that combo that you're missing. So obviously, you know, you're going to go down a lot of the time with this deck just because of how the deck is. It's a big combo deck, so you need to hit the Emboar, you need to hit the Magnezone, you need to hit the energy to attack. But as soon as you hit that, you're in business. So when your opponent takes a knockout on you first, sometimes on a Cleffa or a Tepig or really whatever they have the option to take a knockout on, as soon as you can twins, like let's say they knock out Cleffa, and then you can go twins for Candy and a Magnezone. Candy, Magnezone, magnetic draw for 4 or 5, and then all of a sudden you're just in business. So twins kind of just gets you going, and it's a really solid comeback card that I think is super important to the deck. So let's play 3 Pont, or Professor Oak's new theory. So Pont just says shuffle your hand to your deck, draw 6. Really solid shuffle draw there. Yeah, just a really good card that is seen in a lot of decks in this format because shuffle draw 6 is really good. We also play 1 Flower Shop Lady. So Flower Shop Lady is a support card that says search your discard pile for up to 3 Pokemon and 3 basic energy cards, show them to your opponent and put them in your deck. So it's a little bit of recovery because you are playing a little bit thinner of a line. You're playing a 3-1-3 Magnezone line and a 3-1-2 Emboar line. So if you only have 1 Emboar in the deck and another one's prized and it gets knocked out, you're kind of screwed. But with Flower Shop Lady, it does give you that recovery option there, so that's kind of cool as well. Really depending on what you need as well. Sometimes you attack with 2 Rayquaza Deoxys Legend in a game. You can attack with it, it can die, you can get it back, and then maybe attack with it again for another 2 prizes. Kind of really just depends what the board looks like, but having a recovery option is really good. Speaking of recovery options, this is another recovery card that you play. So Fisherman is the supporter-based energy retrieval. Vileplume is a card in this format that is pretty solid. A lot of good decks play Vileplume. Actually, the deck that David played in finals, the Truth, plays Vileplume. It's a really big part of the deck. And Fisherman is a kind of a counter to that, because obviously you play energy retrieval and junk arm already, but these get locked out by Vileplume. So it's kind of a problem if you need to get energy back. But Fisherman is your answer to that. So Fisherman, search your discard pile for 4 basic energy cards, show them to your opponent, and put them into your hand. So this is just really solid to get back energy. As soon as you get the fires back, you can just Inferno Fandango them back on, and all of a sudden you're back in business. So Fisherman is a really solid supporter card in this form, or in this deck as well. Okay, so looking at the energy cards now, we're going to be starting off with 2 Rescue Energy. The Rescue Energy, if it's attached to one of your Pokemon and it gets knocked out by damage from an attack, you can take that Pokemon and all cards attached and put it, I think all cards attached? Yeah, I think it's all cards attached. Oh no, you discard all cards. That'd be crazy if you got all cards attached. But yeah, being able to just recover that Magnezone line or that Emboar line, it really depends on what your board looks like, but sometimes you can slap that on an Emboar. If you have an Emboar with a Pignite on it, and your opponent is playing like a Vileplume deck or something, and they're just trying to knock your Emboar out of the game, it gives you an option to just recover that. Also, being able to recover your Magnezones is good. It just really depends on what the board looks like, but having the option to keep your Pokemon back in your hand is definitely really solid. Playing 4 lightning, obviously Magnezone uses lightning for lost burn, so you play 4 of those just to keep your lost burns consistent, and then you also play those for RDL because RDL uses lightning as well. They're going to be playing a total of 9 fire energy. Need a lot of fires. Inferno Fandango is a super solid ability, but only if you have the energy to attack. So yeah, 9 energy is really solid, just kind of lets you hit it when you need it. But yeah, this has been Twinboar from 2011. If you have any questions about the deck, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And I will leave a link to that interview, both at the end of the video and in the description if you're interested in looking at that David Cohen interview. Pretty interesting interview for sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.